Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. I have said this before that having a life coach can be a game changer, like truly change your life in terms of your personal life, your professional life, and so much more. Now we're going to take it a step further and introduce you to a mindset coach. What does that mean? We're going to learn all about it today, and she's a fantastic one. She joins us. Susan Jenkins is on the program. Suzanne, it's Suzanne, right?
It is Suzanne, yeah.
All right. I had a brain block because I dated a girl named Suzanne back in the day.
No, it's definitely Suzanne because there's a Z in it.
Gotcha. Welcome. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for being here. What's the name of your company, by the way, Suzanne?
It's Zan Life Coaching.
Love that.
And the reason it's called that is it's a play on the word Zen, to live a more Zen life, happier, more peaceful life, but also to remind people that it is Suzanne.
There you go.
So Zan Life Coaching. 2 for 1.
And I am now Zen, knowing it's Suzanne. So let's go right there. In terms of a mindset coach, the word mindset is almost like a buzzword nowadays. People are listening to it, hearing it. It's a very positive word. We know we should have the right mindset. What exactly does that mean?
It's, to put it in a nutshell and put it in as layman terms as possible, it is about your perception on life, your perception on yourself. It's an attitude. And it can be simplified. I'm sure you've heard this many times. Are you somebody who views the glass as half empty or half full? And that's pretty much in a nutshell what we're talking about. So it's an attitude, it's a way of life, an approach, if you like.
How I'm going right there in terms of what if some of us, we think positive, we try to at least. And for those times where we get derailed, where there's, something happens, we all get in a mood. How do you get back to the positive mindset?
Okay, good question. And there's a couple of things I want to say around that is feeling and allowing yourself to express and to have and acknowledge those feelings of disappointment, sadness, fear, guilt, whatever negative emotions you feel. It is important to feel them, to acknowledge them, give them a little bit of space, but then it's how quickly you then get back on track so you're not derailed. And there's a whole raft of ways you could do that. And really it becomes down to what are your habits and your go-tos at these times. And one of the things that I coach people around is that, okay, this negative thing has happened. Okay, let's feel that, let's acknowledge it, but then let's just move it to one side and see if there are any opportunities or positives to this. Because there's an old saying, I'm British, I use a lot of sayings, that, every story, has 2 sides. There is no one absolute thing. And again, it comes down to the perception of how you see something. You could see it, you and I could sit and watch something on TV, for example, but even though we've seen the same things and we've sat next to each other, your perception and what you take from it could be very, very different to what I take from it, based upon my experiences, my values, my beliefs, and just the way I am.
What you said before, I really think, Suzanne, is very impactful. When something goes wrong, to allow yourself to process it, whether it's big or small. Sometimes, again, perception. I might think something is, oh, that was horrible. And you might say, oh, it wasn't that bad. But that's my feeling.
Yes.
And to work through it as opposed to bottle it up and just keep it inside because eventually it's going to come out in some form, you know. And
Exactly.
he's a therapist, and he's like, you gotta cry. he goes, he goes, I'm a grown man. I'll tell you, I cry every once in a while. I need to. And all of a sudden, I feel better. That was good. You have to let it out sometimes when, and again, back here to the positive mindset where you want to be positive, but these things crop up. It's going to happen. And when they do, it's great to have somebody like yourself to help somebody work through those things. Let's go to basics for a moment here. The difference between a therapist and a life coach. What is that?
Okay, so with a therapist, you have a tendency, and especially in counseling, is be very much focused on the past and what's led you to the moment here right now.
Mm-hmm.
To be absolutely brutal, it's I won't say that I'm not interested in the past, because obviously that has a bearing on what's brought you to here and now.
For sure.
But my focus isn't on the past. My focus is very much of how can we move forward and get some really good positive outcomes for you, rather than, I liken it, if you like, and I've had both types of therapy myself, therapist and coaching stroke mentoring. And with the counseling, what I found is it's a bit like having a scar and you're constantly digging around it. You're not letting it heal properly. And sometimes the best thing you can do is you don't forget it, but that isn't your main focus. You're focusing on something, you're choosing to move past it, you're choosing to and to have the mindset that, yes, this awful thing happened to me in the past, but that isn't what's going to define me. I'm defining myself in the here and the now and how I'm going to move forward. Actions speak louder than words. And I'm a believer that just by getting on and doing something, you can turn your whole day around. Think about it, Steve. How many times have you had a really, really bad day and you go down into that catastrophizing mindset of this always happens, or that's happened because it's Friday the 13th and bad things always happen to me on Friday the 13th. And then all of a sudden, something minor but quite positive happens to you. And within like snapping your fingers, you feel better. You feel great. You feel so much more alive. And yeah, the day's ended on a high. And as far as you're concerned, it's been a good day.
Three words, Suzanne, 3 words all the time.
Yeah.
And it could be the silliest thing. Could be like, oh, what a day. I'm going to go home and I'm going to cook a steak. Haven't grilled a steak in a while. Wow, that's going to be kind of fun. That's going to taste good. A good one. It's the littlest thing. But I do believe the fastest you can get out of the negative mind, the better you're going to be. And instead of just sitting there, because you're asking, and now, I guess this goes in another direction here. Your subconscious, you're asking for it. Be careful what you ask for, because if you sit around saying, I got bad luck, this happens to me all the time, all of that's going to happen. You're making it happen. Either you don't know you're doing it, or you're bringing it to you with that negative mindset.
And also, a lot of people talk about energy, and we are all energy. So if we are in a negative state, we're like a magnet to it. We notice it more, we focus on it more, and more comes our way because we're looking for it. So if we can train ourselves to look for the good, to look for the positive, we'll find it. Because where your attention is where your energy flows. So don't get caught in that trap of everything's bad. And that's why one of the things with mindset really is to have a gratitude attitude.
Yeah. Even just I started keeping and I wanted to do it for years and I've never got around to it. That's not good on me, but a gratitude journal. Just write down some things. What are you grateful for? Wow, the littlest thing, cup of coffee in the morning. That warm cup of coffee just makes me feel good. It's my little treat, whatever it might be. And I just want to jump back to what you said about the therapist. I totally agree. Like and I've left some therapists because they just marinate in the future. I had one a couple of years ago. Things, different journey, things were changing. So I had him years back. So I got him a couple of years ago, brought him back, our relationship. But every single time we get together, on a phone call, um, he would just be talking about stuff from the past instead of moving forward. All right, so what's the latest? What's going on? I'm like, and he just lacked any emotion. Okay, like,
Mm.
was leaving that part out. It was more logistics, legal stuff and all that. Where I believe a life coach is giving it's the accountability as well, right?
Oh, there's so much to it. There's the accountability, there's helping you set smart goals. There's, ways of cutting up miles, having milestones, getting that endorphin rush when you pass a milestone and you're checking off all
Yeah.
the different checkpoints as you're getting towards your goal. And it is about enjoying, this term is used so much, but unfortunately I can't think of a better one, is enjoying the journey. So it's not just the finish line, it's about enjoying getting to the finish line as well
Yeah.
and seeing the progress. That's the only thing I like about going back and looking in the past,
Yeah.
is to be able to measure your progress.
I agree. It's funny. Yeah, you could be sitting there thinking, well, this is it. I'm not moving forward. But if you take a look at the last 6 months in your journey, it's like, oh my gosh, look what happened in that time. Whether it was part of you moving forward or just things that you dealt with, that you might turn around into yourself and say, how the heck did I get through that? And guess what? That is progress. It is. Because for
Absolutely.
myself, 5 years ago, stuff that I'm going through in the last 2 years, I couldn't have done it back then. I never say never, but with a different mindset, yeah, all right, now I can tackle that and lots of other stuff. Where back then it probably would have crippled me or crumbled me a little bit, much more easier.
Yeah,
That's progress too, looking back.
definitely. And even being grateful for the negative things that have happened in your life, because they will shape, form you, maybe even give you the push you need to go out and do bigger and better things for yourself.
For sure. Yeah.
I remember he gets way too much publicity, but I'll mention it anyway. I was attending a webinar that was hosted by Tony Robbins, and there was a lady on there who unfortunately had lost her daughter, aged just over 3 years. But she took what he had said to her is, how can you make your worst day of your life into the best day of your life? And that's a stretch for anyone. And she turned it around and made it into something that she was grateful to have had her daughter for those 3 odd years. And from that has gone on and has adopted children who had no parents. So she'd lost her child. So she gave a child who didn't have a parent. So there was a matching going on. I mean, how incredible is that, to have been able to turn that around?
Looking for the good and the bad. There was a story here locally in the New York area a few months ago where a a drunk driver hit a child. I think he was about 10 or 11. Um, and you know, horrible situation, but the mother turned it around and donated that child's organs. And
Right.
and that child was so mindful. I think he was 12. He had said a while back that that's what he wanted to do. So not only did she honor his wishes, but others got to live because of that.
Yeah.
And forgiveness. We could do a whole show on forgiveness.
Oh, definitely. But just touching on forgiveness, one of the things in having a positive or a growth mindset is about forgiving yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big one because we're all human. We don't come with a manual. We all make mistakes. And if we keep making the same mistakes, then maybe we need to have a bit of a word with ourselves. But it's about learning from those mistakes. And that's, again, it's a negative thing, but be grateful for those mistakes because you can learn from them. You can learn, you can adapt. And, that's how life is. We learn from our mistakes.
Look at it as a lesson. There's a lesson
And,
in everything. And sometimes I had just had this conversation 2 days ago with somebody. Um, and he had said to me, he's an attorney, by the way, a friend. And he said 3 years ago to me, it will all be revealed. Everything will be revealed. And things get revealed. Sometimes the lesson isn't revealed right away. Sometimes you got to wait to figure out what it is. Maybe there's other pieces that have to come into play, but eventually you figure it out. Like, oh, but it's hard to see it when you're in it. So if you're in a challenging situation, why did this happen? Like, really? I had to deal with this.
mm,
I believe things happen for a reason. What's
I
the
can tell you, and if you don't mind, I'd like to share a story with you, personal story, happened to me.
Sure.
So I'd spent about 25 years. I was a qualified accountant. I was working for an IT company. I've been climbing the corporate ladder and getting more and more involved in things, global projects. I didn't love what I did. I did it for the paycheck and I did it because I could do it. And I fell over completely. I imploded. My physical health started to deteriorate. My mental health went hand in hand with that. And I ended up in a very, very poor state all round. To the point where I was pretty suicidal, to be honest. I would drive down the motorway with my eyes closed. I hated it. I hated everything about my life. I felt a complete victim. And for whatever reason, that didn't happen. And then I started getting the really good help. And I realized that actually I liked helping people. And that actually I've been doing that throughout my life anyway, and that I wanted to give back. So I started volunteering for a mental health charity, and then they employed me. And now I've set up doing my own life coaching. So, but it gave me that nudge to actually follow my passion and what I really loved doing. But for 25 years, I slogged away. And one of the biggest things that some of my clients have are they've been in a similar situation where they've done things because they felt that they should rather than they wanted to. And that can make such a difference to you. And going back to the gratitude things, one of the turning points in my life was being told to do a gratitude journal. And that, after 3 weeks of doing that, I started to see improvements. So I am a big believer of gratitude.
Wow. I am so behind in keeping that journal. And I know the universe is saying, hello, it was over a year ago that I received 3 or 4 journals, blank ones, different sources. I didn't ask for them. They just showed up. And I've just over a year ago, I just started keeping one. I need to do it more on a daily basis. Um, and I think it's, same time every day, maybe first thing in the morning or whatever it is. But you have just pushed me even further because you said 3 weeks, you noticed the difference.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I wasn't hating my life so much. I wasn't hating myself so much.
Yeah.
That's honestly, it was the one of the biggest turning points for me was doing that. And I'm so grateful to the person who pushed me to do it.
You just kicked me in the
Yeah,
positive direction, because I'm doing it, but I'm like, I know I should be doing it. It's going to take a while, but even, seeing some momentum in 3 weeks, um, I believe it's scientifically proven that this works. At the very minimum, the mind-hand connection, when you
yes,
write it, it is real.
yes,
We can think things, and that's one thing, but when you're actually committing it that way, it does make a powerful difference. And
it does. And because you're thinking about it again as you're writing it,
I,
and invariably you'll read it back. So actually, instead of just thinking about it the once, you've done it at least 3 times.
3 times, yeah. And and it's an, you say you like to talk in some phrases. Um, if it's published or printed, it's true. It's kind of, people say that. Well, now it's in
Yeah,
front of you. You just read it. You know it's true because it came from you. So there's
yeah,
no questioning it. A lot of times we'll read stuff online. If you still, pick up a paper, book, or whatever, I wonder, is that really true? It is, because you wrote it. There's no doubt.
definitely,
So
definitely.
that you push that part away and just absorb what you're looking at there. Interesting. In
Can
the
I just add on to that also? What I get my clients to do is to not just write what they're grateful for, but why. And that's almost like underlining it and highlighting it
Hmm.
for you. It just gives it that extra oomph, if you will.
You answered my question, because I wanted to know what you suggest and what worked for you. Um, on a daily basis, how many items would you write? I think a lot of us struggle with that. Yeah, we got lots to be grateful for, but then you think, well, how can I do that every single day and make that every day different in terms of what I'm grateful for? How many do you suggest?
I suggest a minimum of three.
Okay.
Doing it either first thing in the morning or last thing at night. And some people struggle in the morning.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's better for them to do it in the morning to kickstart their day. You're setting the intention for your day.
Sure.
But if you're not somebody like that, then maybe at the end of day is better for you as part of decluttering and getting ready for bed, as part of your evening routine, to write down 3 things that you're grateful that's happened during the day.
Hmm. Got about a minute left. Something popped in my head on this topic, so I want to go there. When we write things that we're grateful for, trying to phrase this properly, what if it's good, but it's not really what you want in life? You're grateful for it, and you're going to write it down, but it's this, but it really should be this. You deserve this. How do you get to that point? Like, do you know where I'm going with that? Where it's, you are grateful, but you really deserve, or you feel this should be in your life.
You want more. You want more. We
And
all
I don't
do.
mean greedy. I don't mean in a greedy way.
No,
I'm not
no,
even
no,
talking
no.
monetarily. Let's say you're in a relationship, and it's good, but no, it should be this. And whether it is going to be or not, that
Yeah.
you decide, the universe decides, whatever it might be.
Well, that's a whole raft of other techniques and activities that you need to do, to be honest. And one of those is to be completely honest with yourself, and maybe write a list of all your wants, your desires, and measure it against where you are on those wants and desires,
Mm.
identifying the gap. Because once you've identified the gap, then you can look at ways to close in the gap. And that's when a coach comes in. Bit
Uh-huh.
of jazz hands here,
Yeah.
telling my own premise and my own skills. But yeah, and sometimes it is a case of examining things from different angles. We quite often, I teach mindfulness as well. So very quickly, if I said to you, what can you see? It's a square. Yeah.
It's a square with a number of square shapes, rectangles within it.
Okay. So by really examining something, you can turn it on its side. You can turn and see the back. This is all metaphorical, of course,
Sure.
but you can see that by looking at it in slightly different ways and different angles, you see different aspects of it. And from that, you can deduce so much of, oh, actually, yeah, that's a really nice coaster. Actually, I've picked it up. It's really heavy. It would do as a paperweight or as a doorstop too. You start finding other ways of utilizing what you have.
I think in closing here, Suzanne, that is one of the most beneficial aspects of having a life coach, a mindset coach, because you look at things differently for somebody and they're never going to see it unless somebody points it out to them. And I've been there too, even just talking with people who are insightful that I share something with, and they'll turn around and say, you ever look at it this way? Maybe, let's say you have a conflict with somebody and somebody else says, well, you ever think that maybe they're thinking this? Oh, wow. I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah.
And that's key because and that could be the doorway to least resistance. Wow. That was I didn't even think of that. That was super simple. How do we find you, Suzanne? If somebody wants to work with you, and do you do a free consult?
Yes, I do. So at the moment, I'm on Facebook. So it's Zan Life Coaching. But also, I have an email address. Do you want me to give you that?
Yes, please.
So it's Suzanne.jenkins98@gmail.com. So that's SUZANNE.Jenkins, JENKINS 98@gmail.com. And if you contact me through email, I will respond back and it'll have my telephone number on there too.
And just double checking on Facebook, it's Zan, Z-A-N, life coaching, correct?
Or if you're in Europe, it's Z-A-N, but yeah, Z-A-N,
Gotcha.
life coaching.
Suzanne, delightful talking with you. Thank you for being here. And we covered a lot in a short period of time, different areas. And I look forward next time we get a chance to get together, even go a little bit deeper if we could.
Absolutely. I look forward to it, Stephen. Thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed having a nice chat with you.
Exactly. Everybody gets Zan. Zen by getting Zan.
Exactly.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.